Josh Mandel, I'm really excited to have you come back after your recent graduation, and wasn't all that long ago. You were in the classroom yourself, and now you're sitting on the other side of this camera, being an employee at a company. So I'm just super pumped and super excited that you came back so quick. So thank you. And
No worries.
and with that, an alumni of Ranken Technical College, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Josh Mandel. I am like you said, a graduate of Ranken Technical College, specifically their application and web development program. Graduated in 2023, so just this past year. And since then, I have landed a job at Alberici Group. And basically what they do is they're a construction company with a bunch of different companies under their umbrella that operate all over the world, actually. So, Canada, US, Mexico, looking into branching off into the European side as well. But they're just, they've been massively successful recently, and they're just hiring on a bunch of new support staff, which means hiring on more application developers, more IT workers, and so on.
And what's your job title?
My job title, well, what they put on my email address, my email signature is Senior Application Developer. I'm by no means a senior application developer. I would consider myself a junior application developer. However, I didn't say anything when they put that on there.
Yeah, I mean,
seem
if
to
they want to
think
give you
that,
the title, I mean,
yeah,
you could
know,
argue what's in a title, but they view
exactly.
your skill set as senior, so that's nice. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So at Rankin, you learned some languages, and what are you using on the job?
Whew. So quite a few different languages that I'm currently using right now. One I wouldn't really call a language. I would call it a low-code platform. It's called Microsoft Power Apps. It is a really, really powerful tool to basically build low-code, applications that, in the form of like forms, status reports. I know currently we're using them as like a replacement for some Microsoft Excel sheets that have kind of gone out of date. So that's a really, really great platform that I would recommend everyone looking into. I believe, a lot of what coding is now is going to kind of move into more of like a low code environments in the future, just to give people that don't really quite have our background more of a chance to create applications as it becomes easier and easier as it goes on. Now, that's pretty cool because we as developers will still have the leg up on people because there are custom functions that I have to code, and it's basically C# that I'm coding those functions in. So that's one. I would say another one that I'm using is Angular, and that's similar to React, which I believe you guys are learning right now. Angular is a front-end framework that's component-based, so basically the same thing as React. It's just in a different format. There's different, I think Angular uses more TypeScript rather than JavaScript, so that's kind of an interesting differentiation there. The application that I'm building in React right now, the backend is C# or ASP.NET, and that's something that we did learn at Rankin as well. And my other project I'm working on is in Visual Basic, and that's something that I touched during my internship a little bit. I didn't really get too far into it, but recently just did a huge update on their VB.NET application that runs that, and got very familiar with that as well.
So you're supporting it sounds like you're working on multiple different software projects.
Yeah, right now, one just went out of testing, and I gave it to our financial director to look at. But yeah, I was working on like 3 or 4 at a time. Yep.
Wow. And so when I asked you the question of what languages are you using, it's like, well, it depends on the application, and turns out there's 4 different applications, and so there's a lot of different needs. Yeah, so if I could summarize Power Apps, you mentioned C#, you mentioned Angular, TypeScript, .NET and VB.
That's trying to think if there's anything else. No, I think that's about it. Yeah.
That's about it. I mean, you working with databases much? You doing much with SQL or?
Oh, well, yeah, no. So SQL Server Management Studio we work with to work on, like databases. And then also there's, with Power Apps, there's another, Microsoft is trying to develop their own, backend database called Dataverse. And that works really, really well with Power Apps. So that's something to look at in the future, I think, as well.
Nice. So why did you get into the software development industry? Why did you choose this space?
Yeah, I mean, throughout my life, I've been working, different kind of like seasonal jobs. I was a snowboard instructor for a long time. I was a rock climbing instructor, water ski wakeboard instructor. I really enjoyed like working outdoors. Worked in different restaurants, real estate for a short period of time. That didn't really go anywhere. And I was kind of just like, jumping around at different things that I thought I would like and never really led into anything. But what I always enjoyed was working with computers. So, I decided kind of during the pandemic, like right in the middle of the pandemic, I'm like, you know what, this is a great opportunity for me to go back to school. So, one of the things that Ranken had, which was their 2-year associate's degree, was, it looked very nice to me. I didn't want to spend 4 years in college. I maybe had like a semester under my belt at Mizzou. And I just kind of wanted to start fresh. And I thought, an IT job would be something that I'd be interested in because I love, like I said, love working with computers. So I went and toured Ranken, and I checked out the networking department. I checked out a couple other IT departments there. And when I came to, I believe it was Paul Smith at the time. Paul Smith was teaching the second year application web development program. And I was kind of just viewing, what was going on there. I really liked the idea of like building software, and I like building websites and that sort of thing. And I think that really appealed to my sense of problem solving and creativity, and it really just kind of scratched that itch in my brain that I've been looking for. So that's kind of how I found out about it, how I decided.
Yeah, so it kind of did two things for you, maybe a creative side and a critical thinking, problem solving side, you know,
exactly.
and yeah. Cool. So you chose Ranken because of the 2-year kind of, you didn't want to spend 10 years in school, and then you chose the coding side because it just spoke to you, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So can you talk about the projects that you've worked on? You mentioned 3 or 4 projects. Can you talk about those?
Sure. Yeah. Well, the project that they gave me my first day, which is pretty cool. Like they're like, here, just start building this from scratch. And I really like that, the idea of building something completely from scratch that's just my own. And that's going to be the IT analytics dashboard is what I call it. Technically, it's an integrations dashboard. What it's going to accomplish is it's going to keep track of all of the data integrations that are within our company. And there's probably like about 120, maybe 130 of them, and it's growing. So a big part of the construction industry is sharing data between systems. So when you get into one program, you're inputting all of the construction information on one program. Well, the other 4 or 5 programs that are working with that need to know that information. So how do you deliver that? It's through integrations, and those are functions basically that you build in C# or whatever you want to build them in. And you can run those through something called Microsoft Logic Apps. So, I talked about Power Apps. Now, this is Logic Apps. And it's basically just like one long workflow that, takes all of the information from one database, runs it through a function, and then sends it to another database to, share it, compare it, whatever you want to do. And so my project is basically keeping track of the statuses of those integrations, because sometimes they succeed, sometimes they fail, sometimes they partially fail. Sometimes there's notes, that come with it. And so my dashboard will give you a really good idea of the health of all of the different integrations, and then also like the statuses, whatever notes are happening, so on and so forth. Basically just giving the user, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to add, a little point of view that I got very recently to what you're saying and how relevant it is. Yesterday we had a job fair. There were, I'd say 30 companies or so that came. I talked to as many as I could. I surveyed about 20 companies yesterday, and I can't tell you how many times. I heard many times. Data visualization, data science, pulling data out of databases, big data lakes, all this information about, hey, as a society, we're collecting all this information. Every time you walk into a store, every time you make a purchase, every time your smart camera records a squirrel running across your yard, there's so much data being recorded about us, and it's being stored in databases, and being able to extract the relevant information to businesses and display that to like business owners and decision makers. Like I said, just yesterday, I heard that at least 10 times.
Yeah.
And now what you're telling me is that you're making a dashboard doing that kind of exact work.
Yeah. And that's basically, now my project is going to help people that aren't, technically savvy, to allow them to get a good idea of like what is happening with like the data integrations. Now I want to talk about something that you were just talking about is, data is important. Data is so important that companies value data over money sometimes. Data will make you money. Like if you can analyze whatever data is coming in, about certain projects, like take like 10 construction projects, and you can see like, how fast is this one company getting you their materials? How fast is this one company putting together projects? It'll allow you to make better, more informed decisions in the future about, what companies you use, how you go about doing certain things, and it'll create better efficiency, which in turn makes you more money. So I think data is super, super important, and we're only going to see more and more data analytics positions, and so on and so forth. So
yeah, if you're kind of geeky and kind of like into math, data science is, yeah, that would be a potential field to look into. So yeah, completely agree. And so I guess you want to take a minute. Where are you at right now? You're not working from home, I'm guessing.
No, yeah, I'm working from the office. I'm in a soundproof booth that's literally right next to my desk. They just installed it. Our CTO, he was kind of telling me about it. He saw these in San Francisco at some company, and he's like, I want those at our company. So we got like 4 or 5 of them. They're basically like glorified phone booths, but they're soundproof, glass all around it. So you can see like right next to here, it's a glass wall and a glass wall on this side. So
yeah, and you've shown me some pictures of your office. I mean, your office is a pretty trendy, cool place.
Yeah, they made sure they really value like the employee experience at Alberici. Now it's funny because most of the people on my team work from home. I choose to go on a hybrid schedule, so I work Monday and Friday from home, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the office. And for me, that works really well because it kind of gives me an opportunity to travel over the weekend, and Friday through Monday I can be out of town and working remotely, and then I can come back in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I've been enjoying that. But yeah, I mean, there's a gym here. There's a cafeteria with great food and salad bar and coffee. I mean, they really value like people enjoying their experience at work. Even in the back of the building, there's a huge like prairie land and a trail that goes around, so you can go around like a little pond that goes back there. And I did that yesterday, and just to kind of walk outside. So, man, you definitely want to find a place that values their employees because it's great.
Where's the office located?
Office is in Overland, so it's Page and 170. And if you've ever been, going on 170 and see like a big windmill, that's their windmill.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know exactly where you are. Very cool. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you could take Page all the way down. You could drive Page to 170, and it's probably 25 minutes away, 20 minutes away, something like that. From Ranken?
From Ranken, yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Not too far. Okay. So again, shout out to you because I think right now we've got about 35 students that are I think would want to be in your shoes. You've demonstrated what it takes to be successful out of Ranken, get a job, and I think we got a lot of people that aspire to essentially be like you. So what does it take? What does it take to have the success that you have now demonstrated?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like when you guys are in school, take advantage of that time. There's plenty of times that I was like sitting at my desk, like finish a project and just went on my phone for a little bit. That's great. You got to take breaks and stuff, but really like push yourself to, past the requirements of the projects that you're working on. Push yourself to, maybe do something a little bit more creative with, the web page you're doing. Add animations. Do stuff that other classmates aren't doing, because that kind of stuff is going to put you like ahead of the curve. And guys, it's really, really competitive out there. I mean, I hate to say it, but I got really lucky getting this position. I was up against maybe like one other person for this job, and I practiced my interviews so many different times that I was able to kind of pull through ahead. But you're going to be going up against people that are coming from four-year universities, have internships. It's very competitive. Put yourself in a place that companies are going to want someone that is pushing themselves to the limit, because that's really what these places want. So.
I was thinking about today's interview, and I know you very well, and I knew that you were going to give credit to, you said something that, I was very lucky, and I would just add, the old saying that luck favors the prepared.
No, 100%, yeah. No.
Yeah.
I mean, if I didn't work as hard as I did, would I be in the situation? No, absolutely not. So, it takes hard work. It takes perseverance through rejection. I think that's the big thing too, is you're going to get a lot of rejection. If you're not good with rejection, get used to it, because it's coming.
Yeah.
Unless you can land your first job that you interview for, that's what I experienced at least.
Yeah, and there's everyone's mileage may vary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So what curriculum kind of worked well to like prepare you for your job, and then what curriculum is like I probably could have done without it?
I don't think any of the curriculum was bad to learn. I think what helped me the most was probably the React course and the MVC course, just because those were the full stack courses. And unless you're going just for a front-end developer job or just a back-end developer job, you're going to want to know how these two systems interact with each other. How front-end, you can do like an HTTP request and it gets the information on the front end. I mean, you have to know these things going into these jobs. They expect it. So definitely those courses were very, very helpful. But the HTML course was great. I mean, I didn't have much coding experience before then, so you have to, start from somewhere. And the C#, I would say maybe like the C#, just the, desktop application course might have been like the least helpful, but it was still helpful to learn C# before you go into MVC. I mean, so.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Apps are going the way of the web. They're not really going the way of the desktop as much. I mean, certainly there are apps like Discord and Teams that are desktop apps, but a majority of the apps nowadays are web-based, so I understand why.
But guess what? Discord and Teams both have web apps, so
yeah,
and it's not always the other way around with most of them, so yeah, that's true.
What else worked well for you as far as like, would you provide any tips to like kind of get your first job? Like what helped you get that first job?
Yeah, take some time, update your LinkedIn, put every single relevant information into your skills on LinkedIn. When these recruiters are searching for candidates, they are searching by skill set. So put in HTML, put in CSS3, put in JavaScript, put in everything that you have ever touched, put it in there, because it's a talking point. And as far as like, I would say definitely work on your resume. Your resume is important. They'll probably tell you that over and over and over again. Keep your resume updated, and then also tailor your resume to whatever job that you're applying to. So if you're applying to a front-end web developer position, put mostly front-end web developer stuff on your resume, because the other stuff isn't going to be really relevant anyway. But you guys aren't going to have a lot of experience to put on there, so really just let yourself shine through. Create a web portfolio. I know you guys are going to be doing that in your class. So
talk about that.
Also,
now, you had some projects every semester. You had a different project. Were those projects relevant for you to get that foot in the door, or not so much? And were those on your portfolio? Because you mentioned doing things that your classmates aren't doing. And if I remember right, your portfolio was built on a technology that we didn't necessarily teach.
Yeah, it was built. It was like a weird front-end framework that you could add. It was like a front-end, back-end, but it was all on the front end for I forget if it was React or if it was for Angular, but I think it was React, and it used TypeScript, and it was stuff that we didn't really talk about in class. But you watch some YouTube videos, you figure it out, you just persevere through. I think doing the work that's outside of the class is going to put you way ahead. So that's my recommendation.
Well, and you were in class a year ago, and long story short, we had a hosting solution kind of fall apart on us, and that problem has since been resolved. And I just can't help but wonder, because I asked a question about the projects, and you kind of gave a face like, it didn't really help so much, but maybe having...
No, I mean, it didn't help me, but it could be helpful to other people, and I think it is helpful to build anything. So yeah, of course the projects, the web portfolios are helpful because you're building something. They're taking my desk apart right now. I don't know what they're doing.
You're getting moved.
You see that? They're just taking my desk apart. I guess I'm getting out of here. No, but anyway, so yeah. Do every single possible project that you can, and just don't stop, because the work never stops in this industry. You'll find that out.
You want to pause this and ask them why they're taking your desk apart?
I don't know. No, so they're doing construction here. They're just doing a huge office remodel, and They probably noticed something on my desk, and they're just fixing it. So it looks like they're replacing a panel.
Right on. You're newer to the market, but newer to the job industry. Do you see yourself doing this lifelong career, or as a stepping stone into something else, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've always mentioned, I would like to keep pursuing this as a career. I think, a position in management would be very suitable to me eventually. So once I get a really good sense of how this industry works, and maybe if I stay at a company long enough, I would move into a management position. I'd be very happy with that, because I feel like I'm pretty good with dealing with teams and handling different people around me, and also collaborating. So I think that would really suit me.
Nice, very cool, very cool. Well, those were all my questions. So I think we can transition into the little Q&A of the classes. What questions do you guys have for Josh? James?
What was his interview process like? And
Sure.
What was the interview for?
What was the interview process like? And were you interviewing for this specific job, or what were you interviewing for?
Well, I was interviewing for this specific job. That's a good question. I was reached out to by a recruiter who was hired by Alberici to find basically a new application developer. And I had an initial interview with my current boss right now. And then I had basically what was called a CMA assessment. And what that was, and this isn't going to be for every job, but this is specifically this company does it, is they do 7 different hour-long tests, hour-long interview, basically to see your intelligence level, your personality, your behavior, all sorts of things like that. And you'll see something similar at most places. but I think to the extent that it was here, it was a lot. And basically, what that does is it gives you a good sense of if this candidate is going to be a good fit for the organization. Now, they said they really liked my results. I moved on to another interview where it was the construction implementation director, my current boss, who's the enterprise applications director, a couple people from my team, and then it was supposed to be the CTO, but I think he was on vacation. He takes a vacation all the time, which is awesome. But he was supposed to be there. He ended up not being there, and that was about like a 30-minute interview. It was just like really laid back. Everyone here is just super, super nice. It was not like a technical interview by any means. They really just wanted to get someone who was going to be a good fit personality-wise for the team. And then everything else, they kind of knew my background, so they knew that I was, going to be able to be taught things in the future. So, and then I heard back and got it.
How much of it is like actual like code demonstrations or code tests?
Did you have any coding tests during the interview process?
That's a great question. I have had coding tests in the past, specifically for my internship at Regis, and it was very, very like easy, simple tests. So basically like, do you know how to use a for loop? Do you know how to use if-else statements? Things like that. For this specific job, no. However, I think they understood, understood my background. They didn't feel the need to have a test for that.
A big part of, even when we interview at Ranken is like, let's see your GitHub portfolio. Let me see the code that you've written, how many commits you've had. You can inspect someone's ability to code through the code they've written on GitHub. Yeah.
Yes. How much time did you spend sharpening your coding skills or new languages outside of school hours?
Did you have like a regular routine, or how much time did you practice outside of school, like sharpening your coding skills?
So when I was in school and it was just like after school hours, I would do my homework, from home, and I would say not much, because I would do it so much in class that I didn't want to like burn myself out. So the 4.5 hours that I was in class, whether it was like doing the labs or listening to lectures, I feel like was a good amount of information for me to kind of digest for that day. Maybe on the weekends I would work on like different projects. Like I have there's like a drone photography website that I built. I remember like maybe my third semester I was working on that during the weekends, and I would go for like 12 hours on that. Like that was just like super fun to me, because it was something that I was just building on my own rather than having like predetermined qualifications. So yeah, I would say like do stuff on the weekends when you're not going to be doing anything that day anyway. Like, let's be honest, you guys are going to be playing video games like anyway. So do a little something on the weekends. Give yourselves like the afternoon or the evening to like kind of unwind from that day, and maybe do like 30 or 40 minutes of Code Wars or whatever you guys do.
Yeah. I always think of it as, because I was a gamer, like many of us are, and so many gamers dedicate so much time to their craft and their games.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, like, your character is deleted or becomes irrelevant. At the end of the game, you move on to another game and your character is lost. Where if you work on yourself, you build skills and you don't lose those skills. So I view it as like, can you, I ask my students, can you dedicate, and maybe 50% is too much to ask. I don't necessarily think so. But if you're going to spend 20 hours a week, ultimately in a game that you're going to quit, can you spend half that time working on some skills that you won't lose, that will benefit you professionally and that you will grow from? And so
now and I want to say something on this too, is now keep in mind, I had an internship that wasn't also like a programming internship outside of class. So for 4 hours in the morning, I would be there, and then 4 hours in the afternoon, I would be at Ranken. So I would say find something like that to do, and then you can enjoy your evenings, because, man, you just worked 8 hours basically that day.
Yeah.
So Yeah, definitely dedicate a good portion of your time outside of class to keeping your skills sharp. For sure.
Yeah, I had a student one year, and this guy just loved making music. I mean, he would spend so many hours every week making music, and I pulled him aside and I said, "Can you give me like a fifth of that? Can you give me a fifth of that energy that you're spending making music? Because if you can, you'll be a difference maker." And that was a switch for him. I literally saw a change, and he started dedicating that time that he was making music, and now he's writing code, and he's a successful developer today. I mean, he went
That's
from
great.
a student that wasn't doing well at all to someone who's successful in the industry. So I just, hard work. Right?
That's fantastic. Yeah, no, I mean, you got to have your hobbies. Just
Yeah.
don't let it overtake your goals.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good questions. Good questions. Any other questions? Yes.
What's a project you feel helped you get hired?
Do you have a project that you feel helped you get hired?
So there was never like a point in time where I was like, here's a project, and they're like, oh my gosh, like that's amazing. Because let's be honest, these people are professionals, and they're gonna write, projects that we write in school in like, it takes us like a couple months. They could write it in like a day or two, or they have the components to write it. So there's not anything like that's gonna blow them away. I think just your ability to, I think, and I showed them my portfolio, and it was on my resume, so I'm sure they went to it. But I really do think my web portfolio was something that made me stand out. There was a lot of different animations on there. There was, quick cuts between pages rather than just scrolling. It was mobile friendly. There was a lot of different things about it that I was very proud of. I think if you make an amazing web portfolio and not just kind of go like, cookie cutter on it, that will be the deciding project to get you hired. For me, it wasn't really like that, and it was never really brought up in any of my interviews, but I'm sure that they looked at it because it was right there on my resume.
Good question. Any other questions? Well, Josh, congrats on the launch of a career, and like I said, I think you're something to aspire to for all of our current students. So thanks for taking the time.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me, and it was good talking with you all.
All right, man. Take care. Thank you.